The Paperclip. Known for its aggressive racing and its bumping and banging, the chrome horn is common here, as well as the potential for massive incidents. When it comes to this racetrack, it brings plenty of challenges, and today for the Bootleg Racing League, it's the question of who will be able to tame the Paperclip. Who will come away with the checker flag at Martinsville Speedway? We're about to find out on the Global SimRacing Channel. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the virtual Martinsville Speedway for the 9th race of Season 6 for the Bootleg Racing League's Grand National Series. And it's also the 4th round of the 2021 edition of the Moonshine Challenge. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside the booth tonight is Devin Henry. Behind the scenes, our director Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Plenty of history has taken place here at this facility. Let's learn more about it with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to a piece of racing history. The Martinsville Speedway in South Central Virginia opened before NASCAR was even founded, and it is one of the sport's original tracks. Its paperclip-shaped half-mile has grown from a dusty pioneer to a beautiful racing facility. Going off of the paperclip nickname, Martinsville is two 12-degree banked corners attached to two 800-foot-long straights. Getting out of these corners is all about managing the rear tires sliding around. It often feels like you're coming out of a valley as you head on to the straights. Martinsville is very much a rhythm-based racetrack though, some even referring to it as a rocking chair. You get that sensation because you want to feel the front of the car slam down under braking and then lift back up under acceleration. Making things even more complicated is the fact that the track is only 55 feet wide. Down in the corners, you'll find that yellow curve. It's elevated off the track by several feet, and if you catch it with those left side tires, you're bound to grab a handful of steering wheel. All of the action isn't on the track, however. The pit road that starts in the entry to Turn 3 and exits out of Turn 2 is only 46 feet wide itself, making pit road under caution look like a circus. Martinsville is not a track that you can rest on your laurels at. Always on top of the wheel is the name of the game. The drivers that do that best find themselves with a grandfather clock trophy. The fans come from all over, the drivers come from all over, even internationally, to race at the hallowed grounds. So settle in, buckle up, it's bound to be a great race.
That's a look at your GSRC track guide for Martinsville Speedway. Now let's bring my broadcast partner for tonight, Devin Henry, as we get racing from the Paperclip tonight. Talk us through how it's like to drive these cars here tonight. The Chevrolet National Impala is here at this facility.
Just a true icon here in Martinsville, Virginia. You can look at the 12 degrees of banking, the fact that it's part concrete, part asphalt. The different track surfaces doesn't really trip you up. What trips you up at this track is the amount of braking that you need on corner entry sometimes, especially once you get on old tires. It becomes deceiving exactly how fast you need to go on the corner entry, how fast you can get on the throttle coming on the corner exit. And of course, it's so easy just to plow into the guy in front of you if you do not have the same braking zones. And with a track that's only 55 feet wide, it becomes so easy to get caught up in other people's messes. If you can keep that chrome horn clean, Justin, you will be in much better shape getting around this half-mile track and finding victory lane here in the Bootleg Racing League Grand National Series.
It's going to be very critical to keep yourself clean tonight, as some of the drivers have some struggles with that, as you can see the backdrop of practice. Let's take the time to look at your points entering tonight, where James Lowe enters this evening with a commanding 18-point lead in the championship standings over Austin Belke. Justin Morden, who won here just this past summer, is 23 points back, while Jeffrey Harden's 26 points back. Joseph Segal, the winner of the modified race earlier this evening, enters tonight rounding out the top 5, 51 points behind, but is in a tight battle, we should note, with J.R. Shepard for that position within 3 points. Speaking of tight positions, the Moonshine Challenge, I should say, is currently separated by just 5 points entering tonight after 3 races, with J.R. Shepard winning each of them. James Lowe in second with 19 points. Donnie Moore tied for third with Justin Moore with 11. Austin Belke with 7 in fourth. Kenny Kibbe and Adam Shane are tied for fifth with 6 points. That brings us into tonight's race details. as we get ready to go racing once more for 100 miles, and it's under the lights tonight here at the Paperclip.
Man, Justin, I can't believe we are already so late into the season. Round 9 of 11, 1 of 4 seasons, I should say, over the course of this calendar year. 100 lap races, as is every race in the Grand National Series. Most importantly, though, you cannot change those Goodyear sticker tires. You get one pair, you start the race with them, you end the race with them. Conserving tires on a low banked, short, really tight corner track like Martinsville is going to be so vital. And if you do get caught up in somebody else's mess, you do have that one faster pair you can utilize tonight. And of course, we don't do qualifying. They're in practice sessions right now trying to find the limit, test their tires. But qualifying, non-existent. It's the finishing order from last week, with the top 8 from last week being inverted. So last week's winner starting as far back as 8th, and what we have right now is 17-car field.
One of the largest fields of the season so far. At least 19 competitors now have made their way to the racetrack, and it's a very tight practice session tonight. Mike Lemieux is at the top of the session board with a 20.667, but Matthew Thunhorst is closing on into that time with a 20.675. Todd Liston is in third with a 26.67. Or 677, I should say, followed by J.R. Shepard, who has just been bumped by James Lowe in the top 5. Very tight when it comes to the times tonight.
And very tight it's going to be all night long. You have the close quarters racing that comes along with Martinsville. We are going to see lap times that are going to rival one another when you have some drivers coming from the back of the pack potentially all day today. But another thing that's tight is also these corners. These are only 588-foot turns, still just 55 feet in width. But if you end up sliding out, you see where the asphalt is on the high side atop the concrete. If you get stuck in that, I mean, you're losing at least one spot, and there's a little bit of tightness right there. Todd Liston gets into the back bumper of, I believe that was Joe Segala there. So it's one of those things I just said earlier. If you don't have the same braking inputs as someone, if you don't have the same braking zones as someone, the tight quarter racing can turn into bumper racing. And when it comes to these Chevys and Impalas, they do not like to touch one another. They like social distancing to the max. On board here with Austin Velke, the driver of the always Jeff Gordon number 24 throwback. You see the focus in the eyes. You see just how much steering input he puts in, almost a 90-degree input into these corners, and that is going to eat up that right front tire. The right front tire helps slow the car down into the corner, and it helps the car stay in that bottom lane. You're not going to pass cars on the outside, so you need to make sure that you can just cradle that right front tire, make sure it works all the way around the track, 100 laps tonight. Otherwise, you're going to start floating up the track, you're going to start slowing down, and yes, the chrome horn will be up your rear bumper. You might be facing the other direction at that point.
See just how dialed in he is, especially with all these cars coming out of the pit lane in front of him. He's currently 17th on the practice boards. And by the way, let's take a look at the boss man, Lowell Jewell. He's right behind him on the racetrack and on the pylon with the 21 flat. As his best time, he's running 21.1s here. And when it comes to the traffic jams such as this during the race itself tonight, it's going to be very critical to keep yourself ready for anything, whether it's making a move or prepared for trouble, because it's so easy for drivers to get loose here off the corners.
Absolutely. It only takes a little bit of extra throttle input on corner exit to completely ruin half of the field tonight. And Lowell Jewell rocking a yellow number tonight on that number 19 machine. And you see just the absolute pile of humanity that is in front of him currently. When you have the drivers lined up in a row like this, it's going to be that way in the race. The slightest error on anyone's part, even if it's not a race-ending error for that matter, it can turn into a detrimental impact for every single driver. Just a small tap right there. That was nothing, but it's going to turn one driver. You might get front-end damage on another driver. One car might collect another. Those fast reflexes are going to save you, but at the end of the day, there are some accidents that you just cannot miss. Wrong place, wrong time. It happens all the time, both in the real world, and I'm sure plenty of people have experienced it in the sim world as well.
Under 5 minutes to go in final practice for tonight. As, by the way, the times have shuffled about, we should know. Justin Morton, 20.604. Matthew Thunhorst, Now the second with a 20.606. So the times are picking up here as well in the racetrack with how cool it's getting as well for tonight. We should know it is 74 degrees the track temp tonight, 70 degrees the air temp, mostly cloudy skies, and a fairly gusty winds as well. So fairly cool racetrack, and make it cooler as the night goes on.
Yeah, the lights are on here at Martinsville, and the track temperature, while you do have cars going around it, it's going to want to keep the temperature up. The clouds, the fact that the sun is not going to hit this track at all. While you're going to be losing grip all race long, not being able to change your tires, you will have the ability to have no sunlight on the surface of this track. That allows you to be able to just not have to fight the racetrack any more than you typically do at a track like this. And you mentioned how tight the times are. Justin Morton, Matt Dunhorse, that's the top of the board, 2 1,000ths of a second. Go back another 300ths of a second, that's J.R. Shepard. 3 more hundredths of a second, that's Mike Lemieux. 1 more hundredth, that's Todd Liston. 2 more hundredths is James Lowe. The top 6 times are separated by less than a 1/10 of a second. And these are not really qualifying laps either, Justin. We've talked to a number of drivers throughout the season. They don't really put down qualifying laps because why do you need to? There's no qualifying. So instead, most of these drivers are out here just trying to clock laps. See how long they go on tires. When my tires are like this, how hard can I drive the car? So these are all, for the most part, I should say, times with fresh tires when you're just working on race pace. So that's just how close the race pace is to start off this race, and it comes down to tire conservation to decide who will have the dominant car once we get to lap 95.
And the question mark is, can J.R. Shepard do it again when it comes to the Moonshine Challenge? As talked about earlier, Devin, 3 for 3 so far in the season when it comes to the Moonshine Challenge races. And these are the races that take place in North Wilkesboro and Martinsville. Been a very dominant start to the Moonshine Challenge for him.
Yeah, so the Moonshine Challenge, it takes place over the entire calendar year as opposed to just the regular 11-week seasons that we have. We'll have around 4-ish seasons, and then this Moonshine Challenge goes through the entire year at North Wilkesboro and at Martinsville. We knew J.R. Shepard from the drop of the season that he was not going to be a full-time competitor, and there is no drop weeks either in this series. So he wasn't fighting for a points championship coming into this year, but the Moonshine Challenge is still something that he can go out and win that championship because he has not missed a race at Martinsville or North Wilkesboro as of yet. J.R. Shepard, 44 career victories in the Grand National Series. No other driver has more than 9 when it comes down to the Grand National Series. He is the most dominant driver because he knows when to flip the switch, when to conserve tires, and arguably has the best balance of tire conservation and speed of anybody in the field. And when you look at a guy like J.R. Shepard, you know that those attributes not just help every week when the series runs a short track, because every week is a short track race, but when you come to Martinsville with almost no banking and these really tight corners, you know J.R. Shepard will have a little extra something in store.
Don't forget, Matthew Dunhorse has also been very quick, and it's been very much challenging him throughout a lot of these races this season. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go back and forth.
And looking at Matthew Dunhorse and what he's been able to do since arriving in the series this season, just the fact that he was able to get that win at South Boston, a miraculous victory against J.R. Shepard. That was a fraction of a second. He became the 6th different winner in series history, but he has been towards the front every race this season. We know that he has the ability to win. Another name to watch out for in this race is Justin Morton, though. Morton has 3 career wins in this series, one of which coming right here at Martinsville. Although he's drifting right there, I think every driver right now is just attempting to find that edge. When you're on old tires, what is the edge on corner entry? Or maybe what he's trying to do, I don't know, maybe he's just trying to heat up the tires at this point too and just see what he can do as practice winds on down. And we get ready to go racing tonight at Martinsville Speedway, 100 laps at this half-mile short track, a track that was originally on NASCAR's opening schedule back in 1949. Well, we'll get ready for the grid. It is all set by the finishing order last week. If you didn't finish last week, then you started the tail of the field. But the top 8 inverted, and who finished 8th place last week? It was Jeffrey Harden, so he inherits the pole this week here alongside Todd Liston. James Lowe will start off in the 3rd position alongside Austin Belke. Matt Dunhorse and Justin Morton make up row number 3. J.R. Shepard, last week's winner, will line up in the 7th position. Mike Lemieux, good to have him back as he will start off in the 8th position. Adam Shane, Ruben Altice rounding out your top 10. Lowell Jewell, the boss man, starts off in P11 alongside Ryan Seneker. Kurt Smith and Joe Segala making up row number 7. Donnie Moore starting in 15th. Mark Herzog back in the mix in P16. Brian Dean starting off in the 17th position. Bruce Pearson in 18th. Mike Holloway rounding out our 19-car field here at Martinsville Speedway. In for some fun. Every now and again, you do get some cautions at Martinsville because, yeah, it's just kind of that difficult to get around the track, but a lot of fun to be had at a track that is so one-dimensional on lanes. Sometimes you can still fight off drivers on that outside lane, but everyone will fight for that real estate on the inside. One quick pace lap to get us back going for race number 9, season number 6 of the Bootleg Racing League Grand National Series. Jeffrey Harden to bring us to the green in the bright yellow, number 44, the Bakersfield, California native, alongside Todd Liston. Will take a screen when we go back across one more time. So everyone checking out the track, glad to have you watching on GSRC. Watch out for that guy, Matthew Dunhorse, in the green number 8 machine. He'll be hard charging up towards the front, starting in the 5th position alongside Justin Morton. Those 2 rows will be fun to watch, with J.R. Shepard starting off in P7. Jeffrey Harden, Todd Liston, your front row, James Lowe, the red number 99, your points leader, needs a good day. Second in points is Austin Belke, starting outside of row 2. Pace car peeling on off, ready to go green here at Martinsville Speedway. Jeffrey Harden, go ahead, hit the loud pedal. Race number 9 of the season is green at Martinsville for the Grand National Series. Quick jump to the inside for James Lowe, able to take advantage of a great start by that inside lane. Lowe looking to take over P2 from Todd Liston. Liston and Belke both stuck on the outside. Already one caution here as Mark Herzog gets turned and goes into the wall in turns 3 and 4. So a quick caution, and I think James Lowe is going to be at least a little bit satisfied with that, although he will have to start in the outside lane next time. Looks like Herzog gonna have to tow. We'll take a look back here on your GSRC replay machine at exactly what happened. The white number 57, good old In-N-Out burger on the car for him. Takes a dive into turn 3. Tried to get out of the way. Joe Segala was a little bit slow, and Bruce Pearson in the red, or excuse me, the green, white, and black number 22 came in with a burst of speed, a little bit of contact, sends the 57 into the wall. Herzog having to tow. He will go a plethora of laps down and might very well end his night. Well, Jeffrey Harden with the fastest lap of the race so far, 35.9. Nonetheless, excuse me for that bad humor, but race number 9 of the season. J.R. Shepard has been dominant as of late. 5 wins on the year, but this is the most wins by different drivers in a season for the Grand National Series. James Lowe, your points leader, has visited victory lane. Justin Morton as well, and Matt Dunhorse winning his first ever victory in this series. That able to give him 1 win in total. Grand National Series history, the 6th different winner in this series for the Bootleg Racing League. And one thing that really makes this league interesting is the fact that they have 6 series. Now, of course, on Friday nights, also right here on GSRC, you can check out the Dirt Street Stock Series. And they have all the action Friday nights on the dirt side of things. But today specifically, they start off the day racing street stocks here at Martinsville. So a plethora of laps there, and they're able to run around the track, get some laps in a different kind of stock car. Then you have the SK Modified Series as well, and they are able to run around there for about 80 laps typically. Then you come into this race with over 100 laps under your belt at the same track, different disciplines, if you will, but you still get the opportunity to check out the track and have laps logged. And a number of these drivers will race all 6 series over the course of 2 days. A lot of fun to be had in the Bootleg Racing League for a lot of these drivers. Ready to go back green. Jeffrey Harden, the bright yellow number 44, will take us back to green in P1. James Lowe advancing into second. Todd Lisson, the black 87 in third, followed by Matt Thunhorst, Austin Belkey, J.R. Shepard, Justin Morton, Adam Shane, Michael Lemieux, Lowell Jewell, your top 10. Coming to complete lap number 5 at Martinsville. Jeffrey Harden taking his time, finally gets back on the gas. James Lowe might be able to slide into second. Liston having to check up. Starting to single file back out, still side by side for a lot of this group though. James Lowe has a nose here on Harden, forcing him to the outside lane. Lowe peaking, and right now the 44 all alone on the outside, trying to fight back best that he can. Thunhorst falling right behind the number 99. James Lowe won a victory this year, leading the points over Austin Belkey and Justin Morton. Has himself a pretty comfortable lead. Ooh, the 44 into the wall, and it looks like trouble behind everyone as well. Kurt Smith had some issues, and about 4 cars get backed up. They're going to have to hope for a caution to catch back up to this field, but for now, new leader, the number 99 of James Lowe out front. On board here with Jeffrey Harden, stuck in the black hole right now, just sailing behind everyone as Austin Belkey now moves by for the 5th position. Looks like Harden got some big right side damage. Is going to be able to slide into the 7th position though. Everyone finally back single file. So Lowe, Thunhorst, and Liston now your top 3. And this is where it's going to be beneficial to have a little bit of patience. J.R. Shepard though already up to P4 on the field. On board here with J.R. Shepard. Racing his life, says Todd Liston, and we've seen Todd Liston have himself some good runs the previous season, just hasn't been able to put together every race this season. Joe Segala now with issues on the back straightaway. Our second caution now comes out as we come to complete lap number 10. Issues for the winner of the Modified Tour race earlier today. Won the race from the pole. Watch the black number 81 here alongside the 2 machine of Mike Holloway. Taking it into turn number 1, the trouble comes on the back straightaway. Behind him is Kurt Smith, typically run a Mark Martin throwback. And looks like they're just got a handful, throttled too much, whips it around, and the iRacing race control throws the caution out there for the driver, the number 81. 10 laps in, James Lowe up ahead and leading, Justin.
Yes, indeed, and James Lowe looking to try and hold on in front of a surging Matthew Thunhorst as we see again the racing for the caution flag out. We are on lap number 12 of 100 here at the Paperclip. These drivers continue to pace themselves around. It's not a surprise to see J.R. Shepard already up to 4th position though, already surging on forward, bringing Austin Belkey with them so far, as one driver will pass on by to get a lap back, Mark Herzog, with 6 laps down.
And this is the part where you kind of gotta get your psyche back together. The 2 races that were held previously today, first the Street Stocks, then the Modified Series, now the Grand National Series. Justin, I'm not lying, please trust me, there was only 1 caution in 40 laps for the Street Stocks, believe it or not. 5 cautions for the Modifieds though. They ran about a quarter of the race under caution, but it's possible to not have these yellow flags fly, but right now it almost feels like you haven't really started the race. You haven't really had that long green flag run, so now you got to kind of get yourself back together and get ready for another green. And I don't think that there's many drivers in the field who don't really want just some green flag runs right now to get yourself kind of composed.
Yeah, and this is the tough part when it comes to this racetrack, is getting those runs to be able to get said rhythm. These drivers will now continue to have the lights stay on top of the iRacing pace car here at the racetrack. Keep in mind, among some of your biggest droppers through the field, Jeffrey Harden has already dropped down to 7th position. Brian Dean, of note, has also been able to charge from 17th to 13th, and Brian Dean is somebody who's been quick here in the past. Just needs to get himself to the traffic in the 23.
And for Brian, not someone who we've seen all year long, but I always love watching Brian because he does kind of have that extra little bit of fight. He does a really great job trying to keep his nose clean and has himself some really sneaky good runs throughout a lot of different races that we have. Got a top 10 in this race last season and just trying to get it done again and get himself up. I mean, already got himself a good amount of positions and will restart on the inside.
All set to go. 1 to go signal that time by at the stripe. James Lowe, Matthew Thunhorst 1 and 2. Todd Liston and J.R. Shepard 3 and 4. Elke and Morden row number 3. Then row 4, Hardin and Lemieux. Here's the view from J.R. Shepard as he starts on the outside of row 2. The iRacing pace car is off. And already Lowe trying to angle himself down for the launch. Green flag is out, back and away.
Great jump for the 99. Thunhorst will stay on the right rear quarter panel, elected not to try to fill in that gap. Liston was almost there to close off any entry, but that will allow the 8 to sneak into second. 2 wide for the 5th position. That's Belke and Moore. We have a plethora of trouble in turn number 3. Donnie Moore, Joe Segala, Brian Dean, Mike Holloway, all involved in this one.
And we're under caution once more from a checkup effect. As Brian Dean got into the back of the boss man, Lil Jewel, then Donnie Moore checking up for that, ended up getting hit from behind, and several cars in turn making contact.
Yeah, really unfortunate for Donnie Moore. Just see the accordion stack on up, and when you're in the middle of the corner, sometimes it's so difficult to know when someone is checking up, how hard they're checking up, and that's how something like that becomes a major issue. And for Donnie Moore, last season only had 2 incident points. Started 16th, finished 2nd, was the hard charge of the race, and now he's gonna have to go ahead, slide back, and work even harder. And I swear, Kurt Smith sometimes has the worst luck in this series. He's just trying to stay out of the way, and trouble just seems to find him sometimes.
Kurt Smith in turn getting to the back end of Moore, we seen there and scrape the wall. He's now back in the 15th position. On the bright side, he's gained a position in the past couple laps as a result of that incident. Brian Dean came down to the pit lane for some damage repair. Mike Holloway ended up taking a fast repair in this caution flag period. And by the way, Kurt Smith had already come down the previous caution for service.
Yeah, that's not going to be great for that driver because obviously you only get 1 fast repair. Everything after that is manual damage. And when you're at Martinsville, it's hard to stay out of trouble for 80 laps. Oh, hopefully you can keep that car nice and clean. But I got to say, I love Mike Holloway's paint scheme. I know who that's supposed to look like for all you NASCAR fans, but when I see a Pennzoil machine like that, all I can think of is Jack Honchild. Like, all he needs is a little bit more pinstripes on that thing, although I know everyone's thinking DEI. I don't know why. First thing in my mind is Jack Honchild. Maybe it's the number 2 that's throwing me off.
It's an interesting looking paint scheme tonight. One of the first times he's had this look on that race car, so I like it though. He seems to stick towards the black and the yellow though, I will say, for a color palette.
Yeah, we see him do that a couple of times. We've seen some very fun sponsors, some fun paint schemes on Holloway's machine, and this one you can't miss. And I love the bright colored paint schemes. Typically say like, oh, I can see that from a mile away. Typically it's not really a compliment, but it's not really an insult per se. But when I say that, I mean it. I love bright cars. Love them.
James Lowe, meanwhile, having a nice and bright night so far in the race lead. From 3rd to 1st, Matthew Thunhorst in 2nd. Todd Liston still holding on to 3rd. J.R. Shepard in 4th from 7th. Elke and Morden, Hardin, and Mike Lemieux rounds out the top 8. This upcoming restart in the inversion spot. Shane and Ruben Altis are the first drivers outside the inversion spots at the moment, 9th and 10th positions. And Devin, keeping my eyes peeled to see how these drivers fare out and if some of them can get quickly to the bottom of the racetrack. As Lowe will be in control of the field, the pace car is off. Here comes the diamond. Here comes the gas. A little bit later this time for the green flag.
Mixing it up. I like what he did there, but really threw off Matt Thunhorst, who now has to battle door to door with J.R. Shepard. That outside lane is doing no one any favors, though. And that's going to stretch out everyone behind Thunhorst, who stays locked on that rear bumper of James Lowe.
Still side by side for third position. J.R. Shepherd trying to make it work. That's a bit of a pull on that high line. But the tough part is clearing on by unless the driver below you makes mistakes like clipping the curbing. Todd Liston just did that, and that just cost him the third position.
Boy, that is incredible that J.R. Shepherd's able to hold that. And the issue there, you think for the inside guy, it's so easy. Is Ryan Seneker has issues coming off of 4. We'll have our 4th caution tonight. But it is so difficult to be the car on the inside for Martinsville. You have to check up sooner. You have to get in the gas later. You can't float up the track. Looks like a little bit of help there. It was tight. Seneker was diamonding off the exit of the corner and gets into the front end of the 26 of Donnie Moore. Second incident tonight for Moore. And boy, almost caused another cornering effect. Mike Holloway saw what was going on and he checked out immediately.
Good reaction from Holloway to be able to move quickly out of the way as you see that slide to the bottom of the racetrack for the 61 machine. We're under caution once again. And I will say you want to be on the bottom side of the racetrack, but you can make the top at times work. And the key word is at times. You just need to do it near perfectly. Hope that you force someone into a mistake like Shepherd did, and you're able to pinch the driver down to be able to get a better run off the corner.
Exactly, and Justin Morton was lucky. He was able to slide into his spot very quickly, but for guys who had to stay up there for over a lap, that being like J.R. Shepherd, Kurt Smith, Mike Lemieux, they got trapped up there, and if that caution wouldn't have come out, they would have lost more positions. J.R. Shepherd is the only guy who I've seen thus far in this race make that outside lane work. And for him, able to take away third now, that sets him up for a great position on this restart. But like I said, it's not always easy to be that guy on the inside of a 2-wide situation in the middle of the corner because of just how tightly you have to turn that car. So did a good job pinching, but not too aggressively to really force an error, because you don't want to do that too early in the race, especially in the front of the field. But this allows J.R. Shepherd, I mean, he started back in 7th, now he's in 3rd, and I think that's the most effort that he's put into the whole race so far.
Challenging part's going to be, though, trying to take the race lead, let alone taking away second position, because Dunhorst and Lowe have been in sync, it seems, so far tonight when it comes to being able to find a hole to the bottom for Dunhorst, and Lowe being able to hold on into turns 1 and 2 for the race lead. The interesting mark is going to be how Liston tries to hold on. He was under attack quickly by Austin Belke right before the caution flag into the bottom of the corner.
And you know, we have so much racing left in this, over 70 laps to go in this. So even if you don't, obviously you want to get the jump here. If you're on the inside lane, stay close to that rear bumper in front of you. You've kind of been able to see what James Lozo has done on these initial starts. And if you can just stay hooked onto that rear bumper in front of you, you're probably going to grab a spot from someone on the outside lane. But if you can't do that, just don't burn up your tires. We have so much racing to go. If you're a guy like J.R. Shepherd who has gained so many positions, you don't need to get that second spot right now. If you can, obviously giant benefit, but you don't need to force anything right now. No one on the inside lane needs to force anything right now. There's too much racing left to go to burn up those tires this early.
71 to go when we take the green flag this time by. It's Lowe and Dunhorst, followed by Shepherd and Liston, Belke and Morton, Hardin and Lemieux, then Shane and Lowell Jewell, who has worked his way inside the top 10 from the 11th starting position. Shout out to Bruce Pearson, who's gone from 18th to 11th so far, and Mark Herzog, of note, the only driver more than one lap down, is 3 laps down for this restart. Earlier launch this time, green flag is out. Once again back to racing as J.R. Shepherd going for the hole, and Dunhorst going all the way on the outside, trying to make that work for the race lead. That sets up a side-by-side for the race lead, and side-by-side nearly for second.
Matthew Dunhorst said, I'm going to lick the stamp and just send it anyway. I know tomorrow's Sunday, but I'm still going to give it a shot. Able to stay at least a little bit wheel to wheel. He knows that J.R. Shepherd will be there to take away that position. You see him pinch on corner entry, fade up in the center, get back down. It just doesn't have enough speed right now to really beat the guy on the inside lane. He's still giving it his all, though, and this is really holding up the 99. Any error by either of these two, J.R. Shepherd is ready to pounce.
Right now, 4/10 slower than some of the fastest lap times for them last time by. That time, 2/10 slower than the quickest lap times of the race. Dunhorst nearly got himself a hole between him and Shepard. As now a bit more of a slide. Shepard to the back bumper nearly of low. Now it's side by side for second position.
Dunhorst still able to use some momentum. Got him.
And Lowe gets turned. Todd Liston gets turned around nearly as well. We're under caution as the leader gets bump and ran and turn around.
The leader and your points leader on the season. Let's take a look back at what happened here. It looked like the 99 was just a little bit higher than he usually was, and Dunhorst had been pinching on entry just to keep that pace down by the car on the inside lane. So just watch the two come together. It's really as simple as that. The 99 floats up a little bit. I think that he thought he had him clear, so might have been attempting maybe a little bit of a slide job to keep him behind him. But as we mentioned, these ARCA machines, they hate even the slightest contact. And even as minuscule as that was on the right rear quarter panel, it just whipped the 99 around.
Significant damage to Lowe. That means he'll likely have to take a fast repair here. And this is huge if he can't get himself to the front of the field now for the point standings. Mike Lemieux, by the way, has also had to come down to the pit lane. He ended up taking some scrapes to the front end of the 40 machine, but man, does this change a lot. J.R. Shepard, by the way, is now your race leader as a result of that incident.
Yeah, I'd say that's the guy who benefits most, going from third to first in one heartbeat. And nobody in the field likes that because it's so much harder to pass the number 98 than it is to keep him behind you, really. And both of which are extremely difficult, might I add. Nonetheless, once JR gets the lead, typically no one else is able to make a move around him. So I don't think anyone's happy that the 98 has now slingshot his way up front with seemingly almost no effort. He really hasn't had to pass the car. Everything has kind of come on restarts and just patience when you come to short tracks. He's just kind of sat there and he's let the race come to him. Sometimes it doesn't come this easy to you, but other days it just happens to. Which, you know, Justin, the strange thing in that battle is we saw it felt like Dunhorst and Lowe were slowing each other down, but they were gapping the rest of the field. So I'm not trying to be a jerk by saying that the race came to J.R. Shepard, but those three had significant speed, but the race now falls into the hands of J.R. Shepard.
I think Dunhorst, keep in mind, is still going to be in second, and one of the drivers who is, as mentioned, now inside the inversion spots, the boss man, Lowell Jewell. He started the last restart in 10th position and was able to capitalize to move up to 8th spot now. As you can see, nice and calm as he takes these pace laps. Bruce Pearson also having one of his best runs all year from 18th to 7th position right in front of him.
Along with that, this also moves Austin Belke into a really good spot, the driver of the number 24 machine, because Belke now in 4th. You don't love to have the outside lane, but he's the guy second in the points. He would love to have himself a good day if J.R. Shepard, or excuse me, if James Lowe can't get himself back out front. He will be the main benefactor of any misfortune that the 99 comes upon today.
And a delayed yellow given now as they put the lights on top of the iRacing pace car once more. As you see from Austin Belke, he's trying to sort himself out. Todd Liston is among the drivers trying to sort out where he's supposed to restart here in the 87 machine, hence why the delay.
I think Liston had some sort of black flag thrown or something along those lines, and now he's kind of having to, I don't know what he did there, but he's having to let the field go by, and that was an interesting little turn there.
Keep in mind, when he got hit by Austin Belke, he actually came down technically into the pit lane and went below the green cones, which technically would give him an unsafe pit entry / exit.
Yeah, so he was in that third spot. Yeah, Belke just didn't check up in time. Yup. Great call there, Justin. So that is unsafe pit road entry there, and I think he was hoping that they get that cleared, and I guess not in time.
Green flag is back out either way. J.R. Shepard with a great launch, already leading by a few car lengths as Matthew Thunhorst licks the stamp, nearly sent it to the back bumper of the 98 machine. Back single file they go as Justin Morton trying to also follow suit, but Austin Belke able to keep it side by side, take away the third position as Jeffrey Harden now looks to try and keep the pressure up inside the top 5.
Your pole sitter slid back when he got stuck in the outside lane, now attempting to fight back and gain himself some positions. Meanwhile, J.R. Shepard hoping to set sail. Thunhorst definitely has the speed, though, to keep up with them, and I don't think he's burning up too much tires with his miraculous runs into turn number 1. I think something to pay attention to, though, Justin, I was watching, I was waiting. James Lowe did not take a fast repair, so he might be wondering, you know what, it's too early if something goes wrong. I have enough speed right now, even with this damage, that I want a fast repair later rather than right now.
Leaders currently running single file for the time being, separated by about 3/10. It's a hornet's nest, by the way, in front of where James Lowe was at, because the boss man, Lowell Jewell, has been trapped on the top line. He's dropped on the inversion spots, and it's led to this. Todd Liston's trying to gain positions back here. Joe Segala's trying to gain spots. Ryan Senecar's gaining positions. And then you have James Lowe, who is with Mike Lemieux among the drivers who were involved in that incident for the caution flag.
And Lemieux, Lowe, Herzog, Liston, they were all up way further in the pack prior, and now they're just trying to make up as many positions as possible. And you can see the very visible damage to both the hood and the rear clip wanting to fly off on the number 99 machine. So definitely an ailing James Lowe, but still able to gain a couple of positions. He's now up to P16, a long way still to go, as I think Segala might have clipped the wall there.
I believe so. Might have clipped the very edge of the safer barrier. James Lowe was able to dodge him. And now James Lowe is on through. Lowe is up to 15th position. And the reason this could be also big is because with Austin Belke in 3rd position, keep in mind, that's going to be huge for the points if this continues to stay. Speaking of things continuing to stay in pattern for now, Matthew Thunhorst still keeping within range of the back bumper of J.R. Shepard still with 54 to go.
These two have really begun to check out from this field. It is a second back to find Austin Belke in the 3rd position now. And then you get even further back to find Jeffrey Harden in the 5th position. He's about a second behind Justin Morton. So the field really beginning to separate into these clusters. And a cluster that was kind of mixing it up is the battle for those inversion spots, Justin. The provisional pole just switched hands as Brian Dean and Kurt Smith, Bruce Pearson, Donnie Moore. This is another hornet's nest kind of forming a very large cluster here right around the provisional pole for next week.
Adam Shane thought about taking a peek to try and move up to 5th spot underneath Harding. Couldn't get to the inside fully, though, with a 44 machine. These drivers have lost about a second plus to Justin Morton, running 21 twos. The next group in front, 21 ones. The leaders, 20.9s and 21 flats at the moment. And it seems like Shane wants to go. He feels like he's quicker, it looks like. It's just a matter of building up enough of a run, Devin, to be able to dive to the inside.
And that's one thing that a lot of people that you see on iRacing forums, they don't get. Just because you're faster than somebody, that's not racing. Having to navigate around somebody, that's where racing becomes difficult, and especially at a track like Martinsville, it's not just about your speed, it's running your line where you find that speed and then making the move. And that's what makes a track like Martinsville Speedway so difficult in any form of racing here as we reach the halfway point. And these two continue to blow away the field. I am immensely impressed at the pace right now, Justin, and I know that J.R. Shepard knows how to conserve tires, so I'm almost not worried at this point about them using more right front than anyone else in the field.
The interesting thing is they're doing it with completely different perspectives on how they're entering the corner. More so in 1 and 2 compared to 3 and 4, because Thunhorst taking a bit of a flatter line and going a little bit deeper on the brakes. J.R. Shepard is kicking to the brakes you see right there and trying to angle it on down and use a bit of the little bit of banking there is here as a diamond line for the middle of the apex off.
This is a fixed setup series, and this is one of my favorite parts about fixed setup races. When you have old tires, these are 53 lap old tires now, You have to get creative. You're going to see different drivers use different lines, even though they have the exact same setup underneath their car. It comes down to both driver preference and how you run that right front tire. And that changes how you drive the car, what lanes you drive them in, and it can completely shake up a race in the latter portions. I love that about fixed setup racing.
Absolutely. Fifth position battle continues to be a choo-choo train, with Hardin really slipping and sliding in front of this whole group. The thing is, this entire group can't seem to build up enough momentum to be able to position themselves to go side by side. Shane has taken a couple peeks, has not been able to fully get himself to the quarter panel as Hardin, big slide, may open up the door.
And honestly, you could say that Hardin is checking up. This group is Adam Shane had to check up, and he gets hit by Bruce Pearson. And Pearson lifted up by Holloway. A chunk of an accordion effect once more here at Martinsville.
And I seen that coming the second that Shane tried to floor it off the corner and tried to send it towards the back bumper. You'll see right in front, Harding gets loose in front of this entire group of cars. Shane nearly knocks the wall down trying to build up enough of a run to take advantage. And then right there, has to check up for Harding.
Pearson sent it in there, and there just wasn't anywhere left to go. And what I was going to say was, you can say that Jeffrey Hardin might have been holding up that group, but at the end of the day, there was about 10 cars in that group, and no one was passing anyone at all. Holloway with the smoke screen couldn't get out of the way in time, and he's going to suffer some right front damage on the Pennzoil machine. But again, that's the part about Martinsville. You have to be able to pass someone. You can't pass someone if you're running the same line as everyone else. And quite frankly, that entire pack, none of them were capable of passing one another. They were single file the whole time. Another thing to note, you just saw James Lowe come down pit road, the former race leader. Now he's going to tag about the back of the field now with this pit stop, maybe cashing in on that fast repairs. We're past halfway.
Exactly what he did, took the fast repair. He's off and away from the pit lane in 15th position. It'd be a 12-point loss with where Austin Belke is for the championship lead, which would reduce the lead down to single digits if things were to hold. And this is huge for Belke because while he's been running in third position much of this race, it's still a potential massive net gain if Lowe can't find his way past some of these cars on the upcoming restart.
Exactly. And you look even further beyond that, Justin Morton, who's going to restart directly next to him, not a full-time driver this year. He just isn't. Wasn't able to. But besides J.R. Shepard, he has the highest average finish of anyone in the series. He averages a podium finish. He is only 5 points behind Austin Belke coming into this. So if James Lowe, for whatever reason, it seems like trouble seems to find James Lowe. If trouble continues to find him, it won't just be Austin Belke gaining on him. It will be Justin Morton, who we know is more than capable to go out and win the races to end the season, who will be fighting as well. So for James Lowe, it would be a major double negative because you know that Justin Morton can make up the gap to Belke if Belke can make up the gap to Lowe.
Coming up to 40 laps to go to reset your field. It's Shepard and Thunhorst 1 and 2, Belke and Morton 3 and 4, Hardin and Dean is now 5 and 6, Kurt Smith and Donnie Moore. Good recovery drive is up to 8th position. Just outside the inversion spot is Adam Shane and Mike Lemieux. Rather, Ruben Ortiz, Adam Shane, then Mike Lemieux will be your top 11 for this upcoming restart. And I'm curious to see if Thunhorst tries to stick it on the outside similar to like he did before, or if he tries to just find a hole quickly here, depending on the restart.
You take what the track gives you. In this case, you take what the cars behind you give you.
What will J.R. Shepard give him? Green flag up in the hands of Barney the Flagman. An early launch for Shepard. Thunhorst already single file. Justin Morton quickly jumps up to third position, taking advantage of that launch. And that's one of the tough spots, is when you restart on the concrete, the potential for tire spin is massive as Dean scrapes the wall.
Being able to keep it together, and that restart, J.R. Shepard went so early and caught Austin Belke so off guard. I don't know how Justin Morton had the ability there to react so quickly and get himself into that third position. Now, just like I mentioned, Morton is in position to strike and take away points, not just from Lowe, but also Belke as well. Brian Dean now battling it out with Kurt Smith. This is for P6 on the board. And you see that red 99 starting to catch up to this picture. James Lowe, I think that damage was definitely detrimental to him. Now with that fix, he's up to 13th, so I think he might be able to make something out of this day.
We'll have to see. As you see Kurt Smith now holding on to the position, sent it really aggressively to try and clear on by Dean. Nearly came across the front nose, in fact, just a couple laps ago. James Lowe is now at the back end of this choo-choo train. Adam Shane has lost the bottom in said train as well, as Shane nearly knocks the wall down. One more car scrapes the wall on Brian Dean. That checks everyone up. Ruben Altis all the way down to the curbing, and up the track goes Shane as well to boot.
Dean has just been floating a little bit too much on corner exit. That might just be a product of using too much gas on old tires, and he's under attack now from another train. He's going to get freight trained on the inside if he can't find a spot between Altis and Lemieux coming up. And all these guys hitting the wall are potential free spots for the 99 of James Lowe. 2 spots outside the top 10 right now. Although, once more, everyone getting back into a single file line, unless there is a major mistake, these guys just can't seem to find the momentum to make the passes right now.
See up in front, though, there is a bit of momentum for Kurt Smith on the bright side, and it has opened up the can opener underneath Jeffrey Harden. Harden has lost the bottom, and everyone's starting to try and send it in to get underneath the 44.
Harden is seeing nightmares from what happened earlier in this race when he got trapped on the outside before, shot him back from 1st to 7th. Now he's already back in P7, about to lose it, and now he gets turned around.
Hit in the door, caution flag is out. Brian Dean heading him with the right front tire straight to the number 44 on the door. California Sim Club machine goes around.
And it's just minor contact. I mean, that's almost nothing. You really wish that in these cars, all that means is maybe it gets the guy on the outside out of shape, but instead forces him to do a 180, and it's basically like the second time tonight. The 44 has to come from the back. Boy, in front of him is Mark Herzog, who's seen better days too. Herzog is still a lap down. I'm sure that Herzog cannot wait for next week when they go to Irwindale and can actually show off that In-N-Out paint scheme in a state that actually has the delicious In-N-Out burger.
And that brings up a good conversation point, because as he'll actually get his lap back after being as far back as 6th down in this race, how do you feel Irwindale is going to fail? It's fair, I should rather say. It's going to be very interesting to see how the racetrack plays out.
And that's where practice is really going to become a priority for these guys. Personally, I haven't seen a lot of leagues or hosted races take a run at Irwindale in these Chevy Impalas. And I know for a fact that these guys haven't really seen it either. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these drivers have already hit the track to practice in these cars, because it will be the first time that really this series takes on a West Coast track. A West Coast short track that is regularly ran by the ARCA Menard Series West. So when you go to a track like Irwindale that can still have a lot of speed, I really think that the right front, as much as a player as it always is at short track, I think the right rear as well might become a point that you're going to have to conserve over 100 laps at Irwindale. And I don't know, maybe a guy like Mark Herzog is already going to have laps there. Maybe that'll be a good race for him with at least a more hometown paint scheme, if you will.
We'll have to see. On the bright side, again, for Herzog, it's talked about he's on the lead lap. It's going to be interesting how he can fare. Justin Morton as well. I'm interested to see how he now races from the bottom line, as he'll be starting in 3rd position on this restart after passing by Belke. Remember, from that big launch from J.R. Shepard and the slow launch from Belke on back.
And I want to go back and look at, kind of combine 2 topics that we just talked about, Justin. Both the points conversation with now Justin Morton restart on the inside, Belke stuck on the outside here, and the remaining schedule. Irwindale might be a question mark just because we haven't seen this league run at Irwindale. Then we will end the season at New Smyrna. So you combine those 2 tracks, if James Lowe has any sort of misfortune, Justin Morton will have an opportunity to win this championship as a non-full-time driver, and that is going to be miraculous.
It would absolutely be miraculous, but a victory would go a long way in helping with that cause. He has won here before. It was an emotional victory about a year ago here at this racetrack during the summertime. And now, J.R. Shepherd with the launch. Matthew Thunhorst, better job this time. Has a bit of contact behind them. Donnie Moore gets turned by Kurt Smith. They start piling up in the back of the field. It's a track blocker.
James Lowe is just going to sneak through there with minimal damage as well, and that's going to help out the 99 to an extent. But this starts with the 6 of Kurt Smith. He'll have a little bit of tire spin here coming off of 4, and he's really going to wander the track. But watch the white and black number 26. He's going to kind of come down the track as well. Tries to get back on the gas, on the concrete, like you mentioned earlier, Justin. The 26 doesn't really stay as high as I would expect him, and as much as you typically put down the guy who had the wheel spin, honestly, they kind of came together on board here with Mike Lemieux, an innocent bystander in all this, having a great run. Smokescreen ran into from behind, no chance for the 40 machine to not get a plethora of damage through this.
Of note, Lowell Drew had already moved his car to the pit lane from an earlier incident. Jeffrey Harden had pulled off the racetrack just prior to that restart, and now we may see more drivers join suit and or take faster pairs. Donnie Moore has elected to take a faster pair, for example. That shuffles him to 17th. We'll see if Lemieux elects to come down to the pit lane with significant front nose damage and rear damage to the number 40. Yes, he indeed make his way underneath the commitment cone. So that'll bring us to about 20 laps to go when we get back underway. Not a lot of time for Thunhorst to try and plan things out on Shepherd.
Exactly, and you've seen JR really mix up these restarts, and he's been phenomenal on the jump. Thunhorst has done what he could to keep up, but I know that if Thunhorst wants anything right now, it's a restart like he had earlier with James Lowe, where he was able to really send it on that outside lane, stay side by side, and fight the 99 for a number of laps door to door. Now, I don't know if he can hold that line anymore since we have almost 80 laps of wear on these tires. So just sliding in behind J.R. Shepherd, it's not the worst thing in the world right now, so long as J.R. Shepherd gets that jump on Justin Morton. Thunhorst's going to kind of slide in, be patient, go to work on the 98 machine. One driver that this caution really benefits, okay, first of all, Mark Herzog, he was just a lap down like 3 laps ago, now he's in 11th. But more specifically, James Lowe not only has moved into an inversion spot, he's also restarting on the inside lane. There's a chance that he could be in the top 5 before we go 2 laps green. So a day that almost looked chaotic and detrimental for the 99, he might be able to get a top 5 out of this, restarting in 7th this time.
Absolutely huge to be able to get through the trouble, and absolutely huge now for James Lowe to gain more positions. He has the chance to actually get in a spot where he can gain points now on Austin Belke after looking like he can lose double-digit points earlier on in this event. 21 to go when we get back underway now as we get the 1 to go signal. Jared Shepherd, Matthew Thunhorst, Justin Morton, and Austin Belke first 2 rows. Ruben Altis is up to 5th after the trouble. Brian Dean to 6th. Lowe in 7th, as talked about. Ryan Seneker rounds up the inversion spots. Bruce Pearson, Mike Holloway, Mark Herzog, Todd Liston, Joe Sagawa, Adam Shane, Kurt Smith, Mike Lemieux, Donnie Moore are all on track for the restart. Green flag is out. Another good restart for Shepherd. A good launch once more for the top 3 overall. They all get single file. Austin Belke missed the bottom though. Ruben Altis nearly got to the inside of him.
Able to hold on to 4th though. James Lowe stuck back in 7th. They're working a different line than the guys in front of him on entry there into 3. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but if you're gonna pass someone this late in the race, 20 laps to go, you can't pass someone if you're running the same line as them, as Lemieux gets turned around in the back of the pack.
No caution, we stay green. No other cars around the number 40 machine as J.R. Shepherd still holding on to the lead, but the pressure's starting to pick up a little bit. The number 8 is hungry to take away the point, but can't get close enough yet for that race lead.
More door banging towards the back of the pack, but for now here in the front, everyone's staying a little bit together. Now trouble. Oh, Segala stuck in this one. Smith, Moore, and all starts, I think, with Todd Liston there, as we have a lot of trouble on the back straightaway. This is going to restack everyone up once more.
Todd Liston had been on the high line entering turn 1 and got in the door of Mark Herzog, and you'll see that drifts Liston up the racetrack all the way to the 3rd line before he loops it around right into the midst of traffic.
And nowhere to go for Joe Segal except for into the outside wall along with him and Donnie Moore. Take a look back one more time, and I think Liston here, he knows that he lost time because he got bumped back. Tried to get back on the throttle early. The rear tires just couldn't hold. And an extremely unfortunate series of events there for Segala, as he has nowhere to go, gets turned, and then the 26 also comes along and smacks him because, boom, he has nowhere to go either as he gets tagged in the right rear quarter panel. Really tough day all day long for the cars involved in that wreck here. And we'll go green with under 15 to go now.
And it continues to mean less and less time for Thunhorst to plan things on Shepard. It looked like he was starting to gain a little bit of ground before. Very much time now as we look as Donnie Moore. Significant rear bumper damage. Zone of said contact. Todd Liston has elected to come down to the pit lane this time for service. Number 87 actually scraped the outside wall in the process. It's going to be intriguing, though, how this all plays out. The top 3 seem to be all dialed in on how the starts have been going so far. The tough part has been for the 8, keeping it side by side at minimum, like he did before. That led to that aggressive battle for the race lead before, with where Shepard is launching to be able to get enough separation from the rest of the pack. It's about 3 car lengths earlier than what James Lowe had earlier this race.
And we really haven't seen anyone have the ability to make passes unless there is a major mistake by someone in front of you. Even a minor mistake hasn't led to passes. And I just don't think that we've had enough simultaneous green flag laps in this race for anyone to learn what to do under green flag run. Heck, we're going to go green with just over 10 laps to go. I don't even know if that's long enough to really learn, set up your move, and maybe take it 2 shots at it. I think you maybe get 1 shot if you're able to figure out exactly what you need to do in the first place. So obviously you need to get this restart down. If it's been like the past few restarts, Thunhorst will be fine. He's in the same position that he has been for the past number of laps, number of restarts. So that's not a big deal there. You just can't screw it up too bad. And past that, everything else at this point almost feels like a guessing game just because we haven't had the opportunity to clock in those laps. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens here, but I'm a little concerned that we just don't have enough green flag laps here for anyone to make those big moves unless we have a major mistake that's going to be just on the bad side of a lot of cars.
13 laps to go this time by Thunhorst on the outside, Shepard on the inside of the front row. By the way, the first of the drivers who have taken service this race is Brian Dean in 6th position. Later launch this time. Thunhorst, will he try and send it to the outside? Thought about it for a moment. He backs it down and gets single file in front of Justin Moore, and we're back underway.
Belke stuck on the outside of Ruben Altice. That black number 11 sticking on the left rear quarter panel. Able to dive it on in. Going to gain some time there. Pull up to the door of the 24. Trying to send Austin Belke back a couple of positions where then Brian Dean and James Lowe will be hunting.
Can Ruben Altice get one of his best finishes this season? That's the big question. Still side by side for 4th position as they're starting to lose ground to the rest of the pack. Bit of a checkup for Brian Dean once more. Here's the look from Austin Belke. As you can see, really dialed in and laser focused once more, putting in a lot of wheel movement, more than 90% that time on the high side.
That's on the outside lane, Justin. That's where you at least have some sort of speed to bank on. And how about this 24? I think that might be one of the first times tonight that we've really seen someone fight off another competitor on that outside lane. Almost lost it again On exit of the corner, he floated up, but now he's back under control. And now James Lowe even peeked to the outside there, was trying to find a way around the 23 who gets into the wall. And Lowe able to circumnavigate him, but further back in the pack, Kurt Smith and Mike Holloway, they're not going to be able to stay away from each other. And now we have another caution.
Back under yellow, a rough night for Kurt Smith. Battle for 11th position where Holloway gets in the wall. Kurt Smith actually squeezed up into him. Down the back straightaway, you'll see Kurt Smith again sent it hard into the corner, locking up the left front tire, and then both of them end up making mistakes here.
Adam Shane gets a little part of that, but he'll be able to drive away. I don't think he's going to have any significant right front damage. Right on board here with Adam Shane. He gets a great view of exactly what happened here behind these two. Well, maybe not a great view. It was a little shaky there. That's what happens when you follow the guy in front of you sometimes. But again, losing real estate on corner exit, not a foreign concept here at Martinsville. Happens all the time, and that time collects at least 3 drivers, really.
Well, with 7 laps to go, it's looking like one more restart at the most, maybe 2. Maybe the focal point. We are approaching the point of no return here. Do you see the desperation pick up for the 8, or do you take the points?
Ah, come on. You never take the points. I never take the points. I'm here to win races, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, both of these guys, they're not running for points this year. They're both running for trophies. So you go out, you take the win, and yeah, we're reaching the point of no return. No green-white checkers in this series, so if we get another caution, that's going to end the race. But that was the best restart that the 8 has had all night long, and I thought that he was going to attempt to use the outside lane there, which he chose instead to tuck in behind the 98 real tight. It didn't work, per se. He didn't have enough laps to really run out the situation. But if he can get another restart like that, which is going to be difficult, the fact that he's only done it once shows you he's going to have to hit his marks perfectly when we go back green. I wouldn't be surprised if he just tries to use that outside lane. Because I tell you what, even though the points don't pay the same, when you're not running for points, 2nd and 7th pay the same amount of trophies.
Good point. Really good point, actually. Coming up to 5 to go this time by. Lights are still on top of the iRacing pace car. Shepard, Thunhorst, Morden, Belke, Altis, Dean, Lowe, Seneca in the inversion spots. Pearson just outside the picture. And give a shout out to Mark Herzog. With the amount of caution flags, he's been able to get back on the lead lap and has a chance to get himself into said inversion spots after being 6 laps down in the 57.
How cool would it be to have the in and out mobile lead us to the green at Irwindale? That'd be kind of fun to see, but he's got a little bit of work to do. I've really been surprised that no one's been able to make up some ground, and I'm specifically looking here at James Lowe. Inside row 4, he's been stuck in 7th for the past 20 or more laps. Can he do something to pick up a couple more points before the checkered flag flies?
We're about to find out. iRacing pace car is off. Where does Shepard go is the big question. Last time he went a little bit later. This time, going a little bit higher up on the banking. Massive launch, massive tire spin. Back on her way. As Shepard drifts up to the top, Thunhorst thought about a peak. Has to check up once more. Bumper to bumper as they make their way to 3 to go, as that's going to be the race. Caution is out to the back of the field. Bruce Pearson in the battle for 10th position, hit by Donnie Moore.
Man, an unfortunate way to end this one. But with that being said, I don't think Thunhorst got the restart that he needed to do anything to get that win in just 4 laps. Take a look back at what's going to cause the final incident of the night. Pearson in the 22. They all check up, and the 26 and more just came in with a heap of speed. I don't think he was ready for that inside lane to check up as much as they did, and that's going to send those two to the back of the field for drivers on the lead lap. That also is going to end the race for tonight's event. That will be win number 45 of his career in the Grand National Series for J.R. Shepard.
Impressive number, to say the very least. Has a lap and a half until he can officially celebrate this victory. And it took a little bit of luck to get towards the front, yes, at times. But once he got up the front, it was hard to get by the 98.
And you know, it's like that every single week, and the way that he has the ability to really randomize his restart approach. You never see that 98 car use the same restart, especially given back-to-back attempts. And that's when, as the rest of the field, both second, third, and fourth position, having to determine when that 98 will make the move, you really just never know when J.R. Shepherd is going to take that throttle attempt. And when you do that at a track like this, where you're going off the concrete to the asphalt, it's so difficult to be able to navigate, and J.R. Shepherd did a great job of that all night long. That was the key to the race: restarts, restarts, restarts.
Very critical tonight to be able to come away with the checkered flag tonight. But for J.R. Shepherd off the final corner on the iRacing pace car. Checkered flag waves. He wins at Martinsville.
It don't matter, green or caution. Barney knows how to wave it right for the checkered flag. J.R. Shepherd takes the win, and another great showing by Matthew Thunhorse. All season long, he's always been in contention to win. And how about Justin Morton and Austin Belkey? They're doing what they can to catch up to James Lowe. They end up third and fourth. A good fight for them to get themselves good finishes tonight.
Indeed. And with that, we'll take a quick break. You're watching the Global SimRacing Channel for coverage of the Bootleg Racing League. Welcome back to the Global SimRacing Channel's coverage of the Bootleg Racing League's Grand National Series and what was an impressive race tonight here at Martinsville Speedway. It was one where attrition built up, but it was also one where J.R. Shepherd led 68 laps to take home the checkered flag over Matthew Thunhorse under caution. Justin Morton and Austin Belkey, Ruben Altice rounded out the top five. For Altice, one of his best finishes all season. Brian Dean went from 17th to 6th. James Lowe recovered from a major incident from the race lead involving Thunhorse and got to 7th. Ryan Seneca rounded out the top 8 in the inversion spots. Mark Herzog recovered from being 6 laps down tonight. And Todd Liston rounded out your top 10, Devin.
Mike Holloway able to bring it home in 11th after a very difficult night for the Pennzoil machine. Joe Segala in 12th. Kurt Smith, he was in, I think, almost every incident tonight, but ends up in a 13th position spot. Bruce Pearson brings it home in 14th. Donnie Moore in 15th. Adam Shane ends the night 6 laps down in 16th. Mike Lemieux, Jeffrey Harden, Lowell Jewell round out our 19-car field at Martinsville Speedway.
And it is J.R. Shepard who gets the chance to celebrate once more. And J.R., first things first, how are you feeling? Win number 45 in this series.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. That's pretty cool. Love racing at Martinsville. It's historic track, and it's even cooler to get the race there under the lights now. So yeah, I didn't with the strength of field that we have here, I didn't think that we'd be able to challenge for a win. I thought we could get in the top 3 if we were lucky and did things right. But surprised that we got to 3rd as early as we did, and things just kind of opened up there for us.
Indeed, and it seemed it was restarts, and the timing of said restarts that was very important tonight. Talk us through your thought process to where you wanted to launch and how you wanted to launch on the restarts to be able to hold on.
Yeah, it's extremely tricky. The rules in this series are that you have to go in turn 4, so we can't do it in the middle of 3 and 4.
Once again, JR, thank you very much for the time. Good run tonight once more, and a stellar race for you here this evening.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
JR Shepard coming away with the checkered flag tonight under caution over Matthew Thunhorst, and Matthew Thunhorst is now standing by with Devin Henry.
Matthew Thunhorst bringing it home in the 2nd position. Well, Matt, first and foremost, let's go ahead and talk about that contact with James Lowe back on lap 33. Kind of walk us through what happened there.
Well, I sat there and saw JR up, and I knew that I couldn't. If I the rest of the race proved that, once JR gets out in front, you're going to have a time getting around him. And so I was worried about that. I think I'd gotten a pretty good restart on that one. And so I was running hard to try to pass James on the outside, and to make it work on the outside, you had to run him tight. And I took a look at the replay. It's just I didn't come down the first lane, so technically I hit him in the rear, but I don't want to sit there and throw blame on him and say, well, he slid up or something. It's just if I was down the first lane and hit him, I'd say, yeah, that's my fault. But it's just I was having to play hard and keep him down there, and because if you lose time, so that's just kind of what facilitated that. Is like he just slid up a little bit, and I was playing hard to keep him down, and we just made contact. I'm shocked at how it spun him, because I did not expect how that worked. And I don't know. I hate that he got wrecked. I don't want to see that, but sorry or anything like that really doesn't save his day or prevent any of the fallout from that from helping him. So it just kind of sucks for that. And it's just kind of not what I wanted to put on for the fans in terms of performance or show. So I hate that happened.
Well, nonetheless, you're able to hold on for a 2nd place finish throughout a very chaotic race. And with all those cautions, how difficult was it to really find a rhythm to start working on JR for the lead there with all those cautions? I know that tempo and pace is so important, especially a short track like Martinsville, but how hard was it to really find that rhythm with these short spurts that we had?
Technically, in a sense, at first it was hard, but once we kind of got that, I think, 15, 20 lap run, however long it was in the mid portion, I kind of figured out how JR was running it, and I really figured out 3 and 4. I was still missing a little bit on 1 and 2, but There the last couple of restarts, I really started nailing him because I started figuring out kind of how he's going or doing or kind of how he's going through things. And I thought I had a shot at him a couple of times. And, I thought I had a shot at him. I needed it to go green and I just didn't have enough time for it to play out like I needed to. So, I felt like I had something for him. It just wasn't, I didn't feel like I got beat this time. I feel like I did a really good job, keeping the tires on the car. And, I think the way that this race played out after that lap 33 caution with, me wrecking James, it was just whoever got the lead first between me or JR was pretty much going to be the one that won it. So, because we were just so equal, and it's hard to pass someone when they know what they're doing like that. So, I think I did pretty good, kept restarting on the outside. Normally that's a ticket to the back, but I held on pretty well there. And, aside from just that one caution, I'm pretty proud of my performance. Wish I could have gotten the win, but didn't work out that way. But regardless, JR had a good race, good win there. So,
Able to still bring it home on the podium. Who do you have to thank for bringing home a second place finish today at Martinsville?
Well, I just want to thank you all at GSRC, for putting on these broadcasts. Lowell, I've been enjoying this league a lot, and, Justin Morton, as usual, for, hanging out in the Discord with me and chatting. When you have races like this, it's always fun to kind of have a buddy just shoot the breeze with. So appreciate all that you do, and thanks so much for the interview, Devin.
Absolutely, our pleasure. Glad to have you here. Second place finish for Matthew Thunhorse. And we'll go ahead and also talk to Justin Morton, the guy that he talks to for a while. He's caught up with Justin Prince.
Yes, indeed. And Justin Morton, a strong run for you tonight. Talk us through your race as you worked your way from 6th to 3rd in this event tonight.
Yeah, I kept trying to make that outside work on those restarts and didn't seem to really go anywhere. Wish we had some green flag racing. I was trying to save my stuff, keep it nice and clean, and kind of just tried to feel my way through there. I didn't quite have the pace for the lead there, so I'm pretty happy with the 3rd place.
What made this race so difficult to be able to time up to try and be able to make moves, in your opinion, tonight? And was it the flow of the race? Was it the track itself? What made it difficult to be able to set up passes outside of the restarts this evening?
I think it was some of the flow of the race. Nobody was ever able to get really into a good rhythm. I know that was one of my biggest problems. I just don't know if the tires were able to hold up on that outside long enough for you to get the momentum around the outside. The gearing was pretty short too, so you weren't able to really carry that speed down the straightaway from the outside either.
Interesting. Next race goes to Irwindale. Your thoughts on that racetrack?
I love running at Irwindale. Anything that's up against that wall, I love running it. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm pretty sure last time we raced there, we had a pretty good battle. So it should be a fun one.
Anyone you want to thank for the run tonight?
Yeah, I'd like to thank my team, Total Downforce Racing. Great group of guys. Love being with them. Pixel Dust for the awesome paint that they made for us. Lowell for running this great league. And thank you guys for doing the broadcast.
Thank you for the time, Justin. Justin Morton coming home in 3rd. I'd like to thank him, Matthew Thunhorse, and J.R. Shepard for taking the time to speak with us for post-race coverage. On that note, Devin, your final thoughts on how this race played out tonight?
A little bit chaotic, but still I think maybe a good primer for Irwindale next week, because it's going to kind of be a wild card for these guys. They've never ran this league at Irwindale before, so when they're able to hit that track, what exactly are we going to see with these drivers, with this roster? And I'm just excited to see what they're able to put together for a race. Irwindale brings a lot of excitement. I'm glad to see these old NASCARs, these ARCA Menard Series Chevy Impalas, to head to Irwindale and just have a little bit of fun. I'm interested to see what exactly happens there and what they're able to do with their tire conservation, not just the right front, but the right rear as well. So tonight may be a good way to just kind of, I don't know, maybe not a preview, but just a way to kind of see, okay, who's going to have the ability to go out there to Irwindale next week and just have a successful race, whatever that means for whatever drivers out there.
Going to make things very interesting indeed for the race. But with that, we'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's exciting race from the virtual Martinsville Speedway. We'd also like to thank the Bootleg Racing League for organizing this exciting series. We'd also like to say thanks to the companies who provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed on your screen. Additional thanks to Jude Lawn, who provides wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of her great work. Thanks to the team today in Devin and Ryan and Sean, rather. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can check on the merchandise for sale at gsrc.stormvyblind.com, or you can check on our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button as well as the notification bell so you don't miss a moment of the Global Sim Racing Channel. As talked about, the next race goes to Irwindale on June the 12th. Be sure to tune in for that one. That coverage starts at approximately 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time. Green flag scheduled for approximately 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Catch that here on GSRC. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on your screen, so check those out and mark them down in your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.